Hello everybody, today I just wanted to talk about the first two builds that I'm going to be working towards, and then a really funny in-game build that I'm going to try later on in the season, because there's actually a lot of good uniques, so I thought it'd be kind of funny to see how many of them I could put on and how good of a build I could make solely using these uniques, because some of the unique combos actually seem a little crazy, but I'll talk about the uniques in a little bit. So the first thing I want to talk about was the Werewolf Shred Companion Druids. This is going to be the first thing I think I'm going to play, because, obviously, it also depends on like what drops at the early season. You can't always just play the build that you want right off the bat. We'll see, though, if I can get some decent drops, like maybe Aspect of the Alpha, or even Aspect of the Blurred Beast. If I get this to drop, I'm very confident that I can make, I could make the Shred build work extremely early on, or something like that. But with that being said, pretty typical, Aspect of Might, Aspect of Disobedience, Aspect of the Alpha, and I'm going to get into just all the uniques in a little bit, because I know some people are going to say, oh, well, with the addition of uniques, how's that going to change the builds, right? So the first thing is there's so many changes going on right now that and we don't know what the secondary stats are in the uniques. Like, all of this is just a first draft. It's also why I haven't done Paragon. The reason why I haven't done Paragon is because elemental resistances have changed, and I don't exactly know yet what the best way of addressing that problem of getting to that 70% cap is. I'm going to actually have to play the game and test things out and do stuff like that. Because we might actually need to start thinking about putting points into things like Ancestral Fortitude and stuff like that as like mandatory in builds now. I don't know. But anyways, yeah, so Shred Companion, Aspect of Might, Aspect of Disobedience, Aspect of the Alpha on the gloves, Storm's Companion, Windstriker Boot, Great Staff of the Crone, Aspect of the Blurred Beast, Shepherd's Ring, and Aspect of the Stampede. Now, if you do not have a Great Staff of the Crone, what you can do is you can actually take Shepherd's Aspect, you can take Aspect of the Blurred Beast, throw that onto Great Staff of the Crone, so you can get an extra 50% out of that, so you'll get like a total of 200%, and then you can move Shepherd's Ring up to the Amulet, so that's going to give you the most shred damage, stuff like that. I know, like, in this build, we're not focusing as much on the wolves, but yeah, or if you wanted to, you could put Aspect of the Stampede up here, but I think putting Shepherd's Aspect up here is going to be the best for this particular build, because it'll give you an additional bonus to your core skill damage. And then on top of that, since you're gaining an extra slot, you could use something like Aspect of Retaliation or something like that, something that increases core skill damage based on based on like how much Fortify you have and stuff like that. And I would also recommend that you use Claw. I would not recommend using Storm Strike, for the simple fact that we are still running Pack Leader, and that's really important to get resets. I think that's my biggest issue I had with the Poison Shred Druid when I played it in the preseason, before Season 1 even came out, was the fact that it was so reliant on Poison Creeper, and at the time, I didn't have a solid way of resetting it consistently, right? It felt like I needed to just group up like a bunch of things and then hit like 15 things with shred, and then maybe I'd get it. But once I started looking into it more and I learned about how crazy like Claw is on resetting things along with like Great Staff of the Crone, I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to try this out, and I'm going to throw Great Staff in there, for the simple fact that the build is so reliant on here that yes, you do give up the two-handed legendary power, but being able to reset this more just improves the functionality of the build to the point where I think it's worth it. And let's see here. Okay, yeah, so that's really it for that. Aspect of the Stampede, stuff like that. And keep in mind, when you put Aspect of the Stampede on, anything that increases your companion damage is also increasing your shred, or your Poison Creeper damage is also increasing your shred damage. So that's actually kind of a plus in this build. We're going to be going Coven's Fangs. This is going to increase our minion and familiar attacks by 52%. Lucky Hit, they also inflict a vampiric curse on people. We're going to go Moonrise. We are running Claw with Crone Staff, so I think Moonrise is pretty good. I also don't know if this is multiplicative. I have a feeling this will be multiplicative. I'm hoping it is, because if it is, oh man, that's going to be just wild. Like, I think like Stormclaw and stuff like that, and all, like any build that runs Crone Staff is going to be really good. Feed the Coven, so this makes our minions restore our resource for shred, which is really nice, and gives us a 10% damage amp. And then we have Flowing Veins. You deal 60% increased damage over time. And then we have Resilience. You gain 1% damage reduction for each 2% life missing. This is going to be kind of the first set I'm going to do. One thing I am worried about is Kevin's Fangs. It says your Conjuration, Companion, Minion, and Bat Familiar attacks. So I don't know if that means it's only going to affect the passive. That was something I've been thinking about. Because if this only affects the passive, then this makes it like a lot worse than what it could be. Because like the issue with the Barber was that you didn't get your minions' passive damage attacks put into the Barber after they did that like group nerf. And then so now this will have like the opposite, where then the issue is going to be, you're not getting a damage amp on the active on these. Now granted, keep in mind things like Thunderstruck and stuff like that have changed. So Thunderstruck is actually a multiplicative damage bonus for like your wolves and stuff like that, but it'd be better if you could get it for everything and not just that. But yeah, so this is what this is looking like right now. And let's see here. So then we go over to the Zoo Druid now. Oh wait, no, that's the wrong one. It's the Uber Unique Zoo Druid. I'll get to that one in a second. So then we have a pretty typical Zoo Druid setup. This is pretty close to what I was running before, except for we want to change this to this. You want to go Conceited Aspect now, because if you're running the Crone Staff with this, this needs, what the heck is going on here? This should be Symbiotic, right? With the Symbiotic and you're actually getting barriers more, you'll actually get a little bit more damage out of the Conceited Aspect. And once we get into the uniques, there's also another reason why I think Conceited Aspect is going to be better. But yeah, so Wariness, Scythe Talons, Pack Leader, Bolster, Combo for the Storm. I am going to be trying out Lacerate. That's probably the biggest difference, because we have Anticipation. So I just want to try it out and see if it's good. So your ultimate skills gain 20% cooldown reduction, because this already has like a 45-second cooldown. So already having 20% cooldown reduction is kind of nice. So that's pretty cool. And then it gives you 12% increased damage for each nearby enemy affected by your damage over time effects. So when we think about the fact we have Aspect of the Alpha on, which is inflicting our rabies on everything through our wolves, and then we also think about Poison Creeper. There's quite a bit of good here. I also think that one unique I will throw on here that I think is actually going to be worth it, that we can run without it affecting the build, is this one. Where's it at? It's called Xfals Corroded Signet. I don't know how good it's going to be, but we have always had that one flex slot, and even two flex slots in the case of these builds, because the main thing you need to run is Aspect of the Stampede and Aspect of the Alpha. Those are like the two, and then like maybe like something like Storm's Companion. Those are like the two legendary aspects that actually are going to buff our buff our damage by quite a bit with companions, right? So, but you can see here what this does is it says your damage over time effects have a 50% chance to erupt, dealing 50 to 60% of the damage of that same type to nearby enemies. I think this is pretty good, because we're going to be putting rabies on things, and Poison Creeper just does so much poisoning damage just in general that like if we just start seeing like, and it's 50%, so this is going to happen a lot, right? I think this is going to turn your dot into like almost an additional. It's almost like it's I don't know if the math works out exactly this way, but it's almost like it's adding 50 to 60% more damage, right, to your dots, right? And it's erupting, so it's giving us a nice AoE effect again, which I really, really like. I don't know if Ravens is considered a damage over time effect. If the active is considered a damage over time effect, that would be pretty good. I also don't know if the passive would be. I don't think the passive would be. It says it periodically attacks for 29% damage every 5 seconds, but I'm wondering if the Ravens is, because if the Ravens is also considered a damage over time effect, that means we actually have something that combos with Ravens finally. And Ravens, keep in mind, so right now this has 314%. That's going up. They buffed the active damage by 55%. They buffed the passive damage by 20%. So we're going to be seeing even more Raven damage going into this. So I think that Xfals Corroded Signet is definitely something that is looking pretty interesting here. Okay, so Great Staff of the Crone, Symbiotic Aspect. Coming down here, you see the Scythe Talons, Bolster, Combo for the Storm, etc. We come over here, which I have this set up right. Oh my gosh, no. I might make a slight adjustment to that. Actually, no, I won't. That's fine. Okay, so this is what it's looking like. I'm putting points into this because we're running Moonrise, Kevin's Fangs, Feed the Cup. Oh, that's not. What the heck? What is this? That's not right. I took Feed the Coven off. Man, I swear every time I come back to this website, maybe I just forgot to click Save Changes, but that's okay. Now we want, where is it at? So I think Domination, Ultimate Skills, yes. Okay, this is okay, right? So Domination, and then if another thing to think about too is using the Accursed Touch. So that's another thing that I'm going to test out, is trying out the Accursed Touch as well. But this is also just 24% increased damage to enemies that are stunned, immobilized, frozen, so that's just pretty good in general. Okay. Yeah, so everything is looking pretty much like this. Okay, skill tree. So I am putting the 5 points into here because, yes, because we're running the Moonrise, I'm thinking that maybe it might be worth it. However, the thing is with this is, like, look at this. You're only getting 8% more damage. You're not getting a whole lot of bang for your buck, but the thing is you are increasing a separate multiplier when you do that plus 8%. So it might actually be worth it, because I guess combined you're getting 8% here. You're getting, yeah, another 8% or 9% it looks like here. So it's like, yeah, you are getting 15% extra, and it's to another multiplier, but I don't know. I'm not certain that that's worth it just because of how low the basic damage numbers are. But we're gonna try it out. We're gonna see. I do have Preserving Earthen Bulwark on here. I'm not expecting innate Earthen Bulwark to do a whole lot of damage anymore. I am going to try it out though, so that is one thing to think about. I will swap this over here to some point just to try it out, because if you didn't know, Earthen Bulwark got changed to where now it scales off of your max health instead of the enemy's max health. Because it scaled off the enemy's max health, that's why it was doing so much damage. So it was pretty much working because of a bug, right? Okay. Again, I don't have Paragon done just because there's just too much that, like, I could sit here and give you like a stereotypical one, but it just wouldn't do you very good, because when it comes to the all resistance stuff, I'm kind of expecting Paragon to change to try to kind of like fix that in a way. But let's go ahead and go over the uniques, and this is kind of a hilarious little build here that I came up with. So it's the Zoo Druid, right? But I was like, okay, how do we get as many damage multipliers as we can? So Godslayer Crown is a new one. We don't know what the secondaries are, but it says you deal 30 to 60% increased damage to them once every 12 seconds, for 3 seconds whenever you stun, freeze, or immobilize an elite enemy or damage a boss. It pulls in nearby enemies, so you can just blow up elites with this. You have Tybalt's Will. You deal 20 to 40% increased damage while unstoppable and for 4 seconds after. When you become unstoppable, gain 50 of your primary resource. So this is important because we run Earthen Bulwark, right? Earthen Bulwark makes you unstoppable. We run Symbiotic Aspects, so we're going to be using Earthen Bulwark all the time. So we're actually going to have quite a large uptime on Tybalt's Will. And the thing that sucks about this, though, is that I'm thinking Tybalt's Will might actually be better than Storm's Companion. And I know that that sucks to say, but when we think about it, this is giving us a 40% damage modifier to all 3 of our skills, whereas Storm's Companion is only buffing our wolves, right? So the reason we ran Storm's Companion was because it was a nice wolf buff, we didn't have anything else. But now, Tybalt's Will is a 40% damage increase we could use in Zoo Druid, right, in order to buff it, right? So even if you don't use the Godslayer Crown, I'm still thinking that Tybalt's Will is probably better than Storm's Companion, and I hate to say it because I like Storm's Companion, and I think Storm's Companion even got changed where it has max life and damage reduction now. But if we're talking about like the math on damage, this is kind of good. You might but you might be saying, but hey, why would we need the 50 primary resource? Why is that relevant? I'm going to show you why. And this is why this is an end game build, and because it requires an uber unique called the Melted Heart of Selig. So gain 30% max essence or max resource. In addition, when you take damage, drain 3 to 6 resource for every 1 life you would have lost instead. So the idea here is we combine Tybalt's Will with the Melted Heart of Selig, okay, in order to create this crazy defense combo that hinges on us getting resets with our Great Staff and our Symbiotic Aspect for Earthen Bulwark, right? So that is just a little wild, in my opinion, kind of crazy. So that being said, that's kind of the combination here, but you can look 40%, I mean that's 100% multiplicative damage modifier to everything, right? That's why it's so good. is because it's actually going to apply to all of our skills. Now this one isn't as good. I don't know if, like, there might be a reason to not run this, because you have to remember this only happens every 12 seconds, but at the same time this only happens when you use it on an elite. So that 12 seconds might not matter because you might spend, you know, a few seconds just walking to the next elite, right? So that's something to, you know, to think about. Then we have Soul Brand. Your healing potion no longer heals instantly. Instead, it grants a barrier for 200% of the healing for 4 seconds, while you have a barrier gain 10 to 20% damage reduction. Now, herein lies the main issue with this build, is I don't know if I'll be able to run Soul Brand in this. I think I can run Godslayer, I think I can run Tybalt's Will, but I don't know if I can run Soul Brand, because I don't know if we can actually give up Disobedience, because Disobedience got buffed again, so it's at 60, or not again, but it got, I guess, unnerfed in a way, so it's up to 66% now. So we're giving up 66% armor, and I know that armor doesn't do non-physical resist anymore, but you can, like, I'd almost go on a limb here and say that you can actually fix all of your armor needs just by running Disobedience now. Like, if you ran like a % total armor chest piece plus Disobedience, I mean, you would be getting a ton of armor from that, like, just immediately, right? So armor stacking still isn't bad. It's not as good as it was last season. You know, it's not going to be like the end-all be-all, but yeah, I think Disobedience is still something you want to run just to shore up the armor half of your defenses, right? Because you're going to need to think about the armor half, and then we need to think about the all-resist half. Now, granted, there is resist all on all of these rings. On rings, though, so that is something we have to think about. We don't need as much as we think. I think we can get like 50% from the rings or something like that, so we have to come up with like a 20% deficit maybe. Maybe more, because I also don't know if you can overcap to compensate for the World Tier 4 bonus. So that's also something to think about. But yeah, so this is kind of the combination here that I'm thinking. And then obviously Xfals, Corroded Signet. I'm really expecting, I'm thinking if this works the way it should in my head, Xfals might be just insane for this build, right? So now that might be dumb, but yeah, Xfals is looking kind of insane. Oh, this actually, hold on. If you have Xfals, this one, probably get rid of this. Actually, yes. So get rid of that. Sorry. That's incorrect, yeah. Because if you're running Xfals, I think this right here, Toxic Claws, is like insane. Because it's going to do, yeah, because if you put as many dots as you can on the target, I feel like that's just going to make Xfals go nuts. So I'm really expecting dots to be insane this season. But yeah, so this is the combination with uniques. I don't really have much more to say, but yeah, these are the builds that you're gonna see me playing in the start. Then I'm gonna move into Bloodlance Necro, I think, later on once I'm done with the Druid. But yeah, this is it. The uniques are all freaking insane. So Tacets of the Dawning Sky is also interesting, but I don't know if that one's gonna actually end up being that useful. I have no clue. And we also don't know what the secondaries are on this, so if the secondaries on all these are bad, but I'm expecting them to not be because of what they did to like Storm's Companion and how they've changed. It seems like they're being more cognizant of like, okay, well, you know, we can't just make pants that have no damage reduction on them, right? Because if we do that, nobody's going to run them, right? So they have like max life and damage reduction on Storm's Companion. Now, granted, they then followed it up with a better pair of pants that I think is probably better for the build, especially once you factor in Melted Heart of Selig. I think, you know, Storm's Companion, like, you can still run this, and it'll still be fine until you get a Tybalt's Will, stuff like that. But I think if you have Tybalt's Will and Melted Heart of Selig, I just don't see why you wouldn't. I don't see a world where Storm's Companion is better than that, because it's just so much defense. Like, that's insane. Oh, and then you also think about this, right? You have Resilience, so you gain 1% damage reduction for each 2% life you're missing. So I don't know if you have anti-synergy here, or if this would actually help. But that's something I was thinking about as well. Is that another thing too? Is Feed the Coven actually is probably better than a Cursed Touch. So Feed the Coven is giving us resource back as well from our companions, since we're running companions, on top of giving us a damage amp, and we actually have a reason to get resource back, so we actually have a reason to run Feed the Coven with this build as well. But yeah, I think that's going to be it for this video, guys. Thanks for watching. Hopefully this kind of answers your questions about what I think about the uniques. I think the new uniques are crazy, guys, and the fact you can get Ubers, the Tybalt's Will, Melted Heart of Selig, I am expecting that combo to be broken. Alright, just gonna keep it real. I think it's gonna be a broken combo. Even if the Zoo Druid doesn't end up being the one that abuses it, I don't see a world where this isn't broken. I think Xfals has the potential to be mentally insane, because we live in this world where dots, I think, are going to be on top because of things like what the heck, where'd it go? Okay, this one, the flowing, whatchamacallit, flowing veins. And there's probably an argument that you could run flowing veins with this too, because you have, you know, poison creeper and stuff like that. So I'm curious to see as well, you know, you have poison creeper and ravens, because if this actually affects your ravens and your poison creeper, this is also better. Yeah, I almost forgot to mention that flowing veins actually can potentially work in this build pretty good. It'll be pretty good for poison creeper, but yeah, we'll see. So with Xfals and stuff like that, we live in this world of dots, so I think playing for dot builds is going to be pretty strong this season. But anyway, we'll see. But anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Like, subscribe if you want to see more. I'll see you next time. Thanks.